out there to play, and what a game it was against the Saints. I think that was probably one of the best games of the weekend. I like the Vikings. I think they're fun to watch. We'll see what happens. I don't know if they got enough in the tank to beat the 49ers at home, but, man, it would be good if they do. Let's break down this game, the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think really anybody gave the Vikings a chance to go into New Orleans and win that game. I mean, I thought the Saints, in my view, were the best, most well-rounded team in the playoffs, and I thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl, to be honest. They were good in offense, defense, and special teams, and that Vikings defensive line went into New Orleans, and, man, they really dominated the Saints front. I mean, Drew Brees was sacked several times. They forced fumbles. Just a wonderful job by Danielle Hunter, Everson Griffin, and then this I don't even know how to say his name, number 95, Abdu Nabu or something. I don't know, but he's just been on a tear. But going into San Francisco, second straight road game in the playoffs, it's very tough to win on the road to begin with, and then you factor in the playoffs and the intensity that ramps up. It's a big ask to have the Vikings go into the San Francisco where the 49ers are well-rested coming off that bye week. They've had 2 weeks off playing at home. It's Jimmy Garoppolo's first playoff start too, I believe. So, that could be a factor. But that Vikings defense, if it can play like it did in New Orleans in a very tough environment, very loud environment, certainly louder than what I think San Francisco's Levi Stadium will be this afternoon. If they can bottle that and repeat that, it's going to be very tough for the 49ers to win. And I see a lot of people that are now kind of giving the Vikings a little respect, and some have picked them to win in San Francisco. I just think going on the road against a well-rested team for a second straight week they're on the road, that's tough to do, to win 2 in a row. So they're going to need that defense to play well. They're going to need Kirk Cousins, who kind of shed that big monkey on his back that he couldn't win in the primetime situation. He did that last week. So that kind of pressure is off. And if you look at Kyle Shanahan, he's got the monkey on his back of having blown that 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl against the Patriots back when Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. So, he's kind of has that specter hanging over him of the job that he didn't do by running the ball in the Super Bowl and closing that game out and instead of letting New England come back. So I think Shanahan's got that a little bit, in the foreground, so he needs to get rid of that label. If he wins, then I think everybody will kind of forget about that for a while. But I think if you ask me who I like, I'd probably take the 49ers just because they are at home. They're the well-rested team. I think they're going to be a little bit healthier going into this game than they were at the end of the regular season. And just because I think the Vikings, it's tough to win 2 games in a row on the road, get alone 2 playoff games.
Well, it's been done before, but how good is Kirk Cousins? Is he as good as he looks, or is he just kind of having some good lucky games come his way?
Well, it's a good question. I think that, he has been in the playoffs before. He just hasn't had that success. And now that he has that little taste of success now, maybe he's playing with more confidence going into this game than maybe he had been in primetime situations before. So, I think he's always been a good quarterback. We'll see how great. I mean, this is the time when you determine if you're good or great is in the playoffs. And, we're about to find out if he's good or if he's great by how he does in these games. He certainly has the weapons. I think getting Dalvin Cook back healthy, the running back, really, really helped them, especially in New Orleans. They were able to control the ball, control the clock, pick up yards on the ground with Cook. And, the 49ers haven't done a real good job stopping the run, toward the end of the regular season. So they're going to have to stop Cook in order to win this game, because they always say the running game is the quarterback's best friend. And, Cook right now is Kirk Cousins' best friend.
I ask you the same question about Garoppolo out in San Francisco. Is he as good as he looks, or is he just kind of lucked into a lucky season?
Yeah, he's got some good weapons, and he's kind of figured out Kyle Shanahan's offense. In the beginning of the season, I think the first couple games was a little bit of a struggle, but he's kind of figured this thing out. I think bringing in Emmanuel Sanders at the trade deadline to be their number 1 receiver has really, really helped him. And they also can run the ball. They have a lot of running backs. Raheem Mostert, who played with Chip Kelly here in Philadelphia, he brought him in as a free agent. He's looked really good. And they have some good running backs that can kind of help Garoppolo. So, both these quarterbacks don't have to go out and do too much. All they have to do is kind of, make plays when the situation warrants. But, their running game is going to be a big factor to help them too. And we'll see how Jimmy G does here in his first playoff test. An inexperienced quarterback. We saw 3 of them last week, I think, with Ryan Tannehill and Carson Wentz playing. And I can't remember who the third one was. But, Wentz obviously got knocked out. Tannehill only threw for 72 yards, but he had the running game with Derrick Henry. So, again, that running game can be a huge factor to help out the quarterbacks.
They're a beast, so that's for sure. Before we get into the AFC championship round, if you will, divisional round, if you will, the Texans just took care of business with the New England Patriots. One, a lot of people think that Tom Brady will be back because he's not going to want to end his season that way. But will he be back with the Patriots? A lot of people think that he'll get signed for a 1-year or 2-year contract. But certainly there's the rumor mills out there of Tom Brady exploring other options. And as much as I vomit in my mouth when I think about it, one of the rumors that are starting to get legs is him coming to Indianapolis. And, looking at it just from the pure non-fan aspect of it, Indianapolis probably makes the most sense for it. But there again, there's the deep-rooted hatred that we have learned to have for Tom Brady. I just wonder how that will play off with the fans, if that will even come into consideration. But I think he has the best opportunity in the short term anyway with the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of people have talked about the Steelers, the Broncos, even the Chargers and Phillip Rivers to Indianapolis. So what are your theories as we begin Tom Brady Watch 2020?
Well, I think that you mentioned that hate-love relationship that fans have with, opposing teams' athletes. I always think back to when I was younger and Pete Rose played for the Cincinnati Reds. And, boy, I hated Pete Rose. I hated the way he looked the ball into the mitt with each pitch and how he dove head first. And, boy, I just hated him. And then the Phillies went out and signed him. And then I loved him. He led them to the World Series. And,
and he needs to get into the Hall of Fame, damn it.
I agree with you 100%. But that's a conversation for another time. But,
sure.
I just think that fans will get over that hate very quickly if Tom Brady comes into their team and all of a sudden you're watching him play in your colors on Sunday afternoon. I just think fans would love to see that, to be honest. Even though you might hate him for whatever reason, believe me, that hate washes away very quickly.
I think
Brady.
I was just going to say we had another former Patriot that did relatively well here. So
that's right. Adam Vinatieri came in and you found a way to love him. So I think there's room in Indianapolis fans' hearts to love Tom Brady if he should end up in Indy. I don't know if that's going to happen. It's still kind of early. I think, what could play a factor in what Tom Brady decides to do is the fate of his offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels. He interviewed with Cleveland on Friday, and last I heard he was, one of the front runners to get that job. If he were to leave New England, would Tom also follow suit and leave New England? And then what becomes of Bill Belichick? Does he retire? Does he take a year off? Does he go somewhere? Does he come back with who knows who at quarterback? They'd have to go out and find somebody. But, I think there's still a lot of things that have to get cleared up before Tom makes that decision. But, Indianapolis would be a terrific landing spot for him. I think the Colts are kind of a team that, should have been in the playoffs this year, would have been in the playoffs this year, had some things broken their way, but I think they're a team that's on the rise. And if you're Tom Brady, you don't want to go to a franchise that isn't on the rise or a franchise that isn't expected to win. You want to look around at the landscape and see where I can help put this team over the top to win a Super Bowl, because you're just not going to go limp around and finish your career, with some also ran and tarnish your legacy a little bit. He's going to want to look to go to a situation where he feels that team can win a Super Bowl, not in 2 or 3 years, but next year.
Well, on the docket this evening, as you mentioned, a possible rainy day there in Baltimore. The Baltimore Ravens host the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill and Lamar Jordan, 2 good quarterbacks, but man, Lamar Jordan is a beast. He's the real deal. You kind of think that this kind of way he plays, the style he plays, can't last forever. But it's doing good so far. So the Tennessee Titans and the Baltimore Ravens, what say you?
Well, this is kind of a rematch, right, of their game they played right around Thanksgiving, I think it was, in Week 11, and the Ravens just blew the doors off the Texans 41-7. There was a lot of hype for that game, a lot of talk, and, the Texans laid a big, huge egg in that game. So, they're going to be motivated to kind of turn that around. And, if you look at what this, you can equate it to the Eagles last year when they made it to the playoffs and they had to go to New Orleans for this weekend, this divisional round game, and they had gotten their doors blown in by the Saints in the regular season. I think it was 45-7, something like that. And they went in and, they almost beat the Saints. So, I think, everybody might be discounting the Texans based on that previous game, but I think the Texans will play better. I don't know if they're going to have enough. You mentioned Lamar Jackson, who threw 4 touchdown passes in that game. He might be without Melvin Ingram, I think, who is listed as questionable for the game. And even if Ingram plays, you wonder if he'll be 100%. So, Jackson's going to have to do a lot in his first playoff game, but he's been doing a lot all year. And if the rain is a factor, it's going to come down to a running attack. I think it's going to be hard to throw the ball. And, I think the Ravens have the better running game. So I would suspect that they'll find a way to win this game. Lamar Jackson will get them into the AFC Championship game next week.
Which one would think it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, again, I guess in one way it's good to see the AFC getting a little bit stronger, or maybe it's not, but from the AFC South standpoint. But the Chiefs, I like the Chiefs. They're my second favorite AFC team, so I really do like the Chiefs. And they're at home, and it's not a blizzard like it was last year. So what are your thoughts about the Texans and the Chiefs?
Well, 2 things. First is Andy Reid. He's the master at getting teams into the playoffs, and but he's not really the master once they get into the playoffs. He has a hard time for whatever reason, whether it's his fault or the personnel, whatever it is. Andy can't find a way to get over the hump and get a team into the Super Bowl. He did it once in 14 years in Philadelphia. He got to the NFC Championship game 5 times. Went 1-4 in those games. So, that's the first question to me is how will Andy coach this game? And the second one that I really like Kansas City for is the defense. Their defense has played very well, especially late in the year. And if they can continue to play like they were late in the year, it's going to be very difficult for the Titans to score, especially if you're relying on that running game, which they really do. I mean, I don't think Tannehill can throw for 72 yards again and beat the Chiefs. He's going to have to really step up his game, which he did once he took over for Marcus Mariota. But, this is a whole nother level for Tannehill. This is his second playoff game of his career. Didn't distinguish himself in the first one, but he didn't have to because you have Derrick Henry, who ran for 180-plus yards. I mean, that guy was just phenomenal. 34 carries. I mean, when was the last time you saw an NFL running back carry the ball 34 times in a game? Just a beast. And, if the Titans can control the ball and the clock like they did in New England, then they can give Kansas City a run for their money. But I think that's going to be very tough to do, and I think the Chiefs do get past this game. But I thought the Vikings were going to lose in New Orleans last week, so really, what do I know? Maybe the Titans win the game and shock the Chiefs.
So as we think it now to be, San Francisco and Green Bay, Kansas City and Baltimore, who wins between that scenario of a matchup?
You mean in the AFC and NFC championship games? Who's going to the
Yes.
Super Bowl?
Yes.
That's what you want to know. Let's see. Gosh, that's tough. The Packers kind of have been under the radar, at least in my opinion. But they have the best quarterback. I mean, Russell Wilson. He's a beast too. I'm not sure. That's going to be a good game Sunday night, the Seahawks and the Packers. But I think Rodgers has a little bit more around him to win that game. So that makes it Rodgers versus Garoppolo, and I'd take Rodgers in that matchup. I'm just looking at the quarterbacks there. But I think we'll see. I think the Packers will probably win the NFC. And the AFC, I mean, the Chiefs certainly look like the best team